Hello and welcome to Cadres, the War Machine podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm Mike.
I'm Kurt.
I'm Tom.
Indeed.
Hello.
Well done, Benj.
Benj's usual attentiveness there on display for all to see.
Okay.
And I thought I wouldn't interrupt you again just to keep freaking you out.
I know. This is the thing. I'm getting a false sense of security now. It's building up confidence that you're then going to just whip away at some point in the future. So.
I'd love to say I've been talking to Alex about it, but I haven't. I will, though, I think.
Alex?
Get some tips.
Who the hell is Alex?
He who previously interrupted you.
Never heard of him. I might have some Dyson templates for him, but I've never heard of him.
He's dead inside. I mean, dead to you.
He's dead inside and dead to me. Interesting. Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
You sounded like you were going somewhere with that, and then just wandered off into the woods as you lost steam in your own conversation halfway through.
I think that's going to be a running theme for this entire evening.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Well, if it's like the last one, no one's going to be able to hear me anyway.
No, I fiddled with the volume settings, and
I know.
I also fiddled with the audio settings for the last podcast so that you were at least somewhat audible at points. So,
thank you very much.
Much like my efforts to remove every single Discord notification from it, we'll see if the new solution for that has borne fruit this time.
We were just seeing if you were conscious. That's fine.
I'm very conscious of these things. Anyway, yes, we're back with another episode, and we thought that what might be interesting is to go through, well, a new developing tournament scene with the aftermath of the Tivvy Tussel. So, Kurt or Dom, do you want to take that one away?
So, as mentioned in the last episode, Tivvy Tussel was hosted at the end of May on the date that was satisfied for the Welsh. So when that got moved, I snagged it, and it was a good day. We had solid turnout, 10 players, only one drop on the day, which meant that we had an even number of people, and I got to actually run things rather than running things and playing the bye. But no, I think everyone enjoyed themselves. We had 3 solid rounds, and I actually have got a raft of dates planned for the rest of the year to run more events, because there is definitely a market for it.
I will say that kind of that 3-round steamroller is a very nice kind of level to run at. It's a nice kind of gentle day of some tournamenting.
Absolutely, it fits quite nicely. There was a moment when we thought there might be around 4, but Martin actually won the pair down, or from his perspective, he was the pair up and he won it. So we were able to finish after 3 quite nicely.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was a really good day. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was I played, and it was just fantastic. I got to play Martin for the first time in absolutely years. It was really, really good.
So, a quick question: what is Martin playing these days? For reference, Martin Jenkins, originator of the Welsh Open, now the Welsh Masters.
He was playing Trolls, Blind Bloods.
Ooh, interesting.
And that's what he's frantically trying to paint in time for Welsh.
It was quite interesting watching his journey through the day, because his first round matchup was against you, and just overhearing the conversation, it sounded like you were teaching him the game again. And
I was certainly teaching him Stream Wheeler 25. He had not really read it before.
Well, he went from that on to, he won the pair up, pair down, and smashed his round 3 as well, very convincingly. So while he's been out of the game for a while, he's not lost a whole lot.
No, it didn't surprise me. He's always was a very, very good player.
Well, a tournament day is a good chance to have, if you've not played for a while, like a very quick refresher, because you have those sort of 3 games, quick succession. Like, you can carry lessons with you fairly easily from one to the next, like what's working, what's not, what can I experiment with, what does this steamroller pack do? That's a wider question.
How do I not lose? Yeah.
I mean, that is step 1 of learning how to play War Machine. How do I not lose? You can work on winning later, but how do I not lose?
Yeah, it's not quite the same as how do I win, but how do I not lose is lesson 1, I think. Yeah.
Some would say it's the most important lesson.
Well, yeah. I mean, most important lesson: have fun. But yeah, next one.
No. Power game. That's Crush. Lamentations. Etc.
No.
I don't know.
I think it was Martin who first said to me about with learning to play any of these games was play your game. Try not to worry too much about what they're doing. It helps to know, but it's more important to learn your game and decide how you're going to play your army. And I think that's what he was trying to do again with Trolls as a new army, as a new, always return, new, nearly back to the game.
Oh yeah,
What was
100%.
what was the faction sort of spread out of interest?
We had 2 Chimera, we had 2 Dust, we had 1 Cador, 1 Storm Legion, 1 First Army, Brine Bloods. Is that it? I've lost count. Can you remember any more, Kurt?
You did Storm Legionary, didn't you? It was Dan.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't count. 2 Dusk, 2 Dust 4, Trolls. Yeah, I think that's right. I think so. Unless we missed someone.
Yeah.
Cador. I played into Simon with Cador. I think so.
And does it all feel fair and balanced from a sort of gameplay perspective at the moment?
I would say very, very much so.
Yeah.
Old and new. The only thing there's an Infernals. That's what I think maybe we missed.
Oh, yes.
There was an Infernals.
Infernals.
Oh, there
Yeah.
was an Infernals there.
I mean,
Yeah, I played into the Infernals. It was hard.
Benj, if you want to talk about balance at the moment, that's an interesting thing, because now that, I won't say all tournaments, but a lot of tournament games are on Longshanks, we have numbers. We can actually refer to things. I can see potential problems at the top. Let's put it that way. So
It's an interesting question of sample size as well.
yes.
All the Mark
absolutely.
IV armies are pretty much
They are,
45 to 54%.
yeah, they're in that kind of like, yeah, you've got a decent chance in any one matchup of, win or loss. You've got Sea Raiders, the Orgoth at the top at 54, and the Winter Corps at the bottom of the Mark IV factions at 46. The Gravediggers at 45, but I exclude those because there's only 300 games. All the other Mark IV factions are 1,000, 2,000 games. They are big numbers.
And that's the sample size point, because I think the army with the highest win ratio is Infernals,
Correct.
but the number of games is a lot less than everyone else.
Yeah, they're sort of 780-ish, which is...
I think that's
it's not
part of the dynamic, though, isn't it? In that there's armies that are the outsiders or the left field kind of factions or armies are doing well, not because they're necessarily stronger or more powerful, but because people don't see them. And there's a surprise factor to some of those older.
There's also a secondary thing there, because if you think of the Infernals players, a lot of the people who carried on with Infernals are the people who are just good players in Mark III.
Yeah.
So people like Zilv Alexa, I think, or Aleska, I can't remember his surname, who is a very, very strong player. He can pick up any of his factions and, have a very good shot at winning. He's a big proponent of Infernals. So whether that 60% is purely because it's the good players who hung on to them, unsure. But Infernals are a strong faction. I don't think if we had more games and more players, I don't think they'd be in a stronger position as they are. So
No, it'll be interesting when they come round, as per the Adepticon announcement. What happens to them then?
Yes.
Limited access to read. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like Grimkin are up there with that. Those numbers as well. They're sort of 53%, so they're on the stronger side of things. But again, only 400 and something games, which they're a bit underplayed. But now, if anyone does want to look at how the standings are, going on Longshanks and looking up statistics for War Machine, it shows there's a lot of games being played, and the curve is not as bad as you'd think for balance. Interestingly, it does show that there is somewhat of an imbalance in scenarios that are being played.
Oh, really?
Yes. Partially because some things have been in 2 Steamroller packs and some have been in 1. But there's things like, Battle Lines got played 1,300 times, but Payload only 1,000, which given, I think Payload maybe being, how can I put this, less preferred by some TOs.
Excluded?
Yes. Yeah. Trench Warfare, which was new in this pack, and given Payload's been in 2, Trench Warfare is already at nearly 1,000 games. So those numbers are very interesting. It's also got numbers for things like win conditions. So Cast a Kill, 3,600 games, but Scenario 5,000 games, and clocking out only 1,500.
Oh wow!
I think
that might be because when you look at the rules for clocking out,
yes,
it actually defaults to a scenario win unless there is a very, very close draw.
And there's probably some misreporting in there as well. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
throw that one out there, because the amount of people who will go, "Oh, I lost on clock," even though there's more points earned by someone else. Yeah. The interesting one there, though, is the surprisingly low number of concessions. Out of, what are we talking, 8,000, 10,000 games, only 155 are ones where people have said, "Nope, that's it, it's your game, goodbye."
Well, that's quite good. I like that.
Which I think, with
I
all...
wonder how much of that is misreporting again, with
Possibly.
people going, "Oh, I throw in the towel. Okay, so scenario is blah 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 blah."
Yeah, true, absolutely true.
Maybe.
Although concession is a weird one, because it at least the last time I looked at it, it's like you score half the victory points and half the army, and you get this. It's like, okay.
Open to interpretation a little bit.
The big one for years was, it says you get half the scenario points, but is it what you've currently got plus half,
Or half the total.
or half the possible total? It's like, pass? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But no, it was a really good day. It was really nice to play something. It was a steamroller day, but it was quite light. It was I went into it a little bit apprehensive, but actually halfway into the first game, or even before that, my brothers was playing Martin, and I hadn't seen him for a while to talk to, apart from on Facebook Messenger, and just really enjoyed it. Really nice to get out and play sort of more friendly tournament event. Definitely up for more of those. Might start travelling a bit further for games like that.
Ooh.
Yeah, might come up your way a bit more.
Could you not? You've got trolls. I don't want to face more trolls players, thank you.
I'm not playing trolls at the moment. You know.
No,
I'm not playing trolls at the
Of
moment.
course, yeah, you've got...
He's playing the Slam Snake. You much prefer the Slam Snake.
You love Chimera. I've never seen you whinge about Chimera on social media ever, Mike.
Admittedly, I was actually having a very good game against them with Baronova at the tournament I went to at the weekend, right up until the point where they decided to move forward, and I thought, Baronova on a hill, got 5 focus, out of charge range of anything, pretty safe. That's when Shiris moved forwards and fired a poison shot. There were a lot of 6s in that roll once it was boosted. Yeah, even if I spent the focus, I could not save Baronova. It's like, that's a one shot, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, good game. This was in a game where it's the only time I've ever seen the Chimera Cav fail at a charge. It was very strange. They came into...
Fail at a shot, what, failed to do a lot of damage?
Yeah, they went into the Man of War suppressors, which, because of their positioning, they could only get 2 of the Cav onto them, which I thought, that's still enough to do stuff. And then the first one comes and it goes, ha! Take 2 damage. Second one, take...
When they are resilient and less damage output, but they are still nasty when they get a good charge usually.
Oh yeah, but they just left all 3 Man of Wars there, at which point the Man of War just walked up the next turn and went, guns to the face, and they went away. I mean, admittedly, with Battle Driven, it's still a pain, but yeah. But that was not the Tivvy Tussel.
No.
That was another tournament entirely. So, yeah, you're planning more. What sort of, time span of the year, or are you still confirming dates for more?
Oh, actually, just confirmed today. I was going to aim for every other month, but again, Martin had a special request for before the Welsh, so that changed things up, and then what was actually available. But the dates to keep an eye out for are July 26th, September 6th, and October 4th.
Okay.
But I'll be starting to publicise them later in the week, and it should be good. If I can handle, or if I can draw enough of a crowd like we had last time, I can see this being a very, very regular fixture.
Awesome. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, it's good to kind of see that there's that kind of, again, as I said previously, you've kind of got that tournament scene in the southwest coming along nicely. You've got the one in London coming along nicely. There's a sort of there's 2 centres for near the Midlands with Daventry and Walsall, and then kind of got I think it's the Outpost,
right, the west,
the Outpost up north.
Yeah, but there's one. So some may remember a previous player, Rich Pradgett. I've been talking to him, and he thinks there's an event happening somewhere in 3 or 4 weeks on the west side of the Midlands, but I'm not sure. I can't quite where yet, but I can update when I hear more.
Well, looking at the Longshanks page for UK events coming up, we've got the Board in Brum team event, Claw and Cortex in Essex, the Board in Brum singles. This is the worst part. The Board in Brum events are at the same venue as the Walsall events, which are also kind of almost in Wolverhampton, but that's a side point.
Is that you saying that that's not Brum because it's in Wolverhampton and getting picky about what is Birmingham and what isn't?
Birmingham is Birmingham. The rest is Yam Yam Land. we are in the Black Country. I will thank you to remember it. I petitioned to have the Black Country flag added to Longshanks and got it.
How'd that go? Oh,
Did it work?
Yeah. Well, if you got any local flag, you can ask as part of the request thing to say, hey, can we have our local flag? That's why you'll find that things like Claw and Cortex in Essex, they have the Essex County flag. Oddly now, the Birmingham flag has appeared, despite never being official. That's an interesting one. The Black Country has its flag, but yeah, a lot of stuff just gets the England flag. Like, okay,
good.
I will fly the Black Country flag wherever I go. I feel I've derailed myself there.
Yeah, have a little bit. All by yourself.
But yes, Board in Brum is not in Brum. It is in the Black Country. It is a hate crime.
Right in. Anybody who cares, do feel free to reach out to the podcast, and we'll do our best to care as well.
Yeah. I can't seem to find any care at my desk.
Wow.
I mean, if you're gonna start confusing the counties in the south in a similar way and confusing, Dorset and Devon, those kind of things, then if it's that level of confusion, then I might agree with you. But I don't think it is.
I just draw a big circle around and just say the West Country.
Oh, that's fine. That is a fair term for that.
Here's where they
get. You won't find anybody offended by that.
Here's where they get the actors for pirate films.
Indeed. Yeah.
But yes, the other one that's coming up, actually that one's end of August, would be War Manchester.
Oh yeah.
So, which that's getting to large scales now. That's hit 48 players.
That doesn't sound as fun.
I was signed up for that one briefly because when the Welsh got cancelled, it seemed attractive as an alternative big weekend. But then when the Welsh came back, and to be honest, the proximity of the dates.
True.
I couldn't do, and they're split by a month, but I don't think I could do a big weekend like that, just a few weeks apart.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I think they're probably going to have slightly different vibes as well. The Welsh, even though it's kind of very packed in as far as the amount of games is concerned, is usually a fairly relaxed affair.
Yeah.
Looking at the names at War Manchester, it's like, oh dear.
Shark Tank.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the fact that you start seeing the international flags. That's the one. That's the one that starts to worry you.
I mean, that usually happens at the Welsh as well. But I agree with you. It generally has a more light-hearted feel and a laid-back kind of a social vibe.
Nothing against international players, but my God,
it's when you see multiples of them that you start going, oh, this is a tournament for proper players. I see.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'll just take my poorly painted miniatures elsewhere and sit in a corner.
Benj, I have seen your miniatures. They are not poorly painted.
They're average at best. Anyway, you should talk about your tournament since you got high praise on your Colossal.
I did get a couple of people looking at my models and saying they're quite nice, which is, it's always nice to hear. But, so the weekend myself, I went over to Daventry for 3 rounds of Raw Machine in a converted refrigeration unit that is Battlefield Hobbies. And it's actually a nice shop and venue, kind of fairly spacious, although it can get a little warm because obviously it's very, very insulated. And they've done their best to cut windows in the walls and put fans around, but can get a bit toasty. Especially because I thought this last weekend, being UK Games Expo weekend, there might not be many people there. I was very wrong. They decided to hold what I think they termed a cadet day, which meant that there were a lot of younger 40k players just packing out the place, including someone.
I'm not playing War Machine; they're playing 40k.
Yeah, but they were getting their first explanation of what a Space Marine is. It was like,
oh wow,
this is heartwarming. Just no, this is a Terminator. Ooh, okay. But yes, there were 8 of us there. to play some War Machine, or in my case, play some War Machine badly. And yeah, it was 3 nice games. Normally, I think, Dave, they're like doing 75-point games because they're just a bit quicker, and it forces some really awkward choices in list building that personally I quite like.
He just likes that awkward reaction and people being confused and a bit, uncomfortable.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind the game being 75 points. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think 100 points, you can get too much of your stuff in there. Like,
no.
Forcing people to just make that choice between, do I include a unit that does work or one more support piece? I think that's...
I don't agree with that at all.
Really? Really?
Really?
I do hear you. I like the forcing to make interesting list building choices, but I have to admit, in my experience, I find that the current War Machine takes about the same amount of time, regardless of the point size. I don't find 75 or even 50 any shorter than 100.
Well, I mean, that's partially because the savings between 75 and 100 is like 1 Warjack and a couple of solos. I mean, it's not... You're saving maybe a minute off most turns.
Even going down to 50, we get games at the club that last as long as the 100-point game on the next table over.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, certainly quicker.
That's a big chunk of list gone at that point. Interesting.
It somehow becomes a lot more tactical.
That's fair. I will say...
Yeah, I'd rather have all my toys, please, and not go without, or decide what I have to take out, or I like 100 points.
Trolls and all their support. I will say...
Don't pay trolls. Yes.
At the moment, I will say, as you head down to like 75 and 50, the current Steamroller pack does break down a little. It gets very awkward to play. I'd imagine especially at 50.
I would say there are some very, very cool alternate scenarios in the app for playing at 30 and 50 points, having played them with the Shadows and Scum box and playing box on box and gradual, kind of a bit like a mini journeyman, but with just turbo's.
Yeah.
Playing some of those scenarios, the narrative scenarios, that I'd recommend for playing smaller size games. They're just really good, and they scale better. I think you're right, Mike. That some of the flags are too far apart. Not flags. The objectives are too far apart. It gets very difficult to make sure to cover the ground, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, as well as that, you've got stuff like trench warfare at lower points. You're just never going to have enough. Like there's
no.
Yeah.
You've got, 2 objectives, 2 caches, 2 flags. 4 objectives in total. There's just too much on the board to be concerned with, which is kind of a nightmare. But yes, overall on the day, played into Chimera, which was... that was a good kind of back and forth game, right up to the point where Baronova got shot off a hill. Second game was against Crucible Guard, which was... it was a force that seemed designed entirely to frustrate Kador, because
Excellent.
Mark IV Kador says, we don't have many axes, but we do have lots of guns. And this was a Crucible Guard force that had all the Carapace medium-based models. It's like, okay, so I'm getting +1 to my power shooting you, but you're getting +4 to your armor from me shooting you. Oh, this is a problem. And also had like quad of Rocketmen solos that were just going in again and blind you and blind you and yeah. It was a good.
Look, my Crucible Guard is in the loft. I'd like to keep it there. Stop trying to tempt me to get it out of the loft.
No, it was a good tactical game overall, but kind of got locked out on one side by just this mass of medium bases that I could not clear. And then third game was into, Gravediggers. Having seen them on the table now, they work interestingly. And as someone pointed out, even though they have 8 command cards, it's really difficult for them to actually use even half of them because of the limitation of 2 a turn.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. And they can't airdrop on turn 1.
No.
And they're going to have 4 airdrops in total. So it was very interesting to play against them and see what they do. And it's seeming that is have some machine guns, do lots of combined range attacks, and have some flanking forces that unexpectedly take out a quarter of my army. So I went into Signar, very back and forth on scenario. But there came a point where I was playing Vilkul, I played Baron over twice, played Volkul for the third game, and I'd advanced Volkul far enough up the board that without killboxing, there was no place that was safe, and because I'd killed something in front of her the turn previous, she was behind this large fiery cloud. I was like, yeah. So the effort was made to kill Volkul by bouncing Electroleap shots off one of my jacks. I'd completely forgotten that the Gravedigger gun mages had Electroleap as one of their default shots. Like, oh
yeah.
Oh, that's not nice. So a fair third of Volkul's health went away, but then it just became Jake's has 0 focus and is 12 inches from Volkul. Yeah.
That's not a position that anyone wants to be in.
No. Jake's at Def 11 is not happy. And it was a sad time for all. Also, one of the few times I got to do the Medveditsa grab and smash because I wanted Plugger to just go away and be anywhere else other than on top of my mortar. So, yeah, good fun games. I'll be heading back to Daventry the next time they do basically anything. It's a great place for a bit of gaming.
I have for the days that I'd like to go. I just haven't managed to pull my finger out and actually get myself up there yet. But I'd like to.
Well, looking at dates, the next one they've got is August the 9th.
Middle of my holiday, but I'm probably not actually away that week. Yeah.
Now,
I'll wonder that.
I would have suggested also the Warsaw one for you, Kurt, but I believe that will clash with another Tiverton event. So you may want to go something that's vaguely close to home rather than travelling obscene amounts of the country.
If it's good the same day, then I'm going to go to Devon rather than contradiction. That feels like it's saying it, but it's true.
I appreciate the support.
Absolutely, always.
Yeah, so the next Warsaw event for those interested is 26th of July.
That's the same day.
Yeah, exactly. Which I shall just join now. Well, I'm here.
Not being distracted. It's fine.
No, it's fine. I was so tempted to click Old Umbre there and see if it arrived, if the battle boxes arrived in time. But I don't think we're going to get a viable army out of what's coming for the initial bit of Old Umbre.
Oh, I reckon.
Yeah, well, proxying
fun list.
Fun list, yes, because they have the beast equivalent of Full Throttle. I can't remember what it is.
Wild Aggression.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Which is
well done.
Absurd. And I genuinely would love to have in Winter Corps, just because it's such a good... Honestly, I just want Butcher 1 in Winter Corps. Winter Command, rather. It's... Yeah.
Wild Aggression just makes you think of Earthborn Diatrons.
No. I'd rather not think of them again.
Yeah.
And that stupid thing in Mark II of, hang on, so we're standing in water next to a wall within 3 inches of a forest.
Yeah. So we're +2 speed, +2 defense, and +2 armor.
And then the magical words as it gets there. So, what's the power of your melee weapons?
Well, yeah, it's still yours.
That thing went into Butcher 1 and just became the absolute killing machine.
I love that thing so much.
Because Lola had the highest power in the game, I think.
Oh yeah, if you link the power added on to the strength 12
yes.
that the troll had that nobody else had. Yeah, and you could stick rage on it as well. Oh,
how did we accept this amount of jank in the game?
Oh, I loved it. Well, the jank before that was that you could throw it. You could make it knock down, throw it, and then it could charge.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that existed right
Fine
into
circus.
right into the early days of Mark III with it was a minion one. One of the minion.
Oh, the
casters.
Gators.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Gator. Yeah, you're right. Right, the Wrestler. You could do it with Wrestlers, couldn't you?
Yes, because that had the inbuilt animus to stand up.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Knockdown. Yeah, because to stand yourself up.
And then they went, no, you can't do that. That's illegal.
It's very silly.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about silly, going back in the history of the rules, there's the whole thing in Mark II where the standard start for both, I think, Sorcerer 1 and Kane 2 was to run the cheapest model in the army forwards and then charge it in the back with your caster to get extra distance.
Yes.
And you would have to kill it because that's the way the game worked. But thankfully that small abuse of the rules has been put out to pasture with the ability to cast a spell and then run.
Yep.
Which is one of the, as a quality of life improvement for Mark IV, that's one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
It certainly simplifies a lot of things when you're trying teach the game to people, explain it.
Because it never really made sense to my mind that it's like, well, if I cast a spell, why can't I run? Because casting a spell is an anytime thing that doesn't use up any part of my activation, and then running.
Exactly.
Because your warcaster had to stop and think.
So you're saying this anytime thing is not anytime?
Yes, exactly. It also meant that you could have activations where, you could genuinely just start. You do the spell stuff and then kind of forget and run, and it's kind of like, oh wait, no, that doesn't work. It's It put a condition on something else in the activation that just didn't feel right. But now, hey, it's fine. Because you could do the spell and charge, but it's.
You could fail the charge in order to get out the table, and then end your activation, but it's still running.
Yeah. It's
much cleaner now.
Yes. I mean, I will say every version of War Machine has been, at least in some part, an improvement or a smoothing out of what's happened before. I genuinely would love to take players who have only started playing in Mark IV and just make them do one, 100-point sized game of Mark 1. Not Mark 1 Remix, Mark 1.
How many points would that actually be? 750?
I don't know.
Something like that.
I only really played Battle.
Well, a unit of champions was 106 and a mauler was 111. And those are the numbers I have in my head. Don't ask me to quote the entire thing, but there are odd numbers that are still in my head.
The fact you remember those is quite impressive.
I'm old.
Yes. But this is...
Yeah, no, I have a few bits. But I used to play a lot of Trolls.
And I used to play a lot of Kadok.
And I used to play a lot of Haley too.
Oh, fuck off.
You're one of those people.
Yes, of course I am. What do you expect?
Ah, yes, Signal players who start their list with the Squire and then move on to the Caster.
Yes.
That was a model that never should have been created.
What? Kick the can, have a point. Whee!
Oh, I get an extra focus and my control area is 2 inches bigger. Yay! Every other faction is sat there with a 12-inch control area, and Signal's like, 16 inches in all directions. Suck it, nerds. Or was it 18 for Halo? I can't remember.
Focus
16. Yeah, she was focus 7, and then an extra 2 inches.
No, she was always focus 8 because you had a Squire.
No, yeah.
Oh, can't add the Squire twice there, Benj.
The urge to take the scalpel off my desk and go and stab Benj is rising.
I did love Thorn and the stupid interactions you could do with that, because he had that, he was obviously an arc node, and then he benefited from additional movement shenanigans.
Oh, if you put a spell through him, you got a move of 3 inches or something?
Yeah, something. You could you time bomb through him and did lots of...
Sorry, this is taking you back to very dark and horrible days of repeatedly playing Nick's Signal.
I was going to say, I'm starting to feel like we should apologise for the hate speech and move on.
I had fun. I was alive for the first time.
You got to play Signal and ruin everyone else's days.
Well, that's kind of what I am. I think I'm quite malicious when I play games. Like Kurt's talking about sidelining his Signal because of the player experience that the other person feels, which is very considerate and humane of him.
Actually, that is.
I'm playing.
That is an interesting one for you, Kurt, with you saying that Gravediggers felt a little bit abusive from your...
So it wasn't just that. So it's two parts to it. One is that I played into a new player with new shiny proxied, Gravediggers. And I think... So I played Chimera, and I played Dusk. And Chimera is very glass cannon, Dusk is a bit less. So I don't mind the glass cannon idea. But the thing with Signal, with the ranged attacks, is if you line up your ranged volleys and assault, you can remove heavies at range with a combined fire with different jacks and different everything else.
Yeah.
And there is no retaliation that can come from the enemy if you do it right. Yeah. However, there are ways to stop it if you know how to stop it. So it's a bit all or nothing, it feels. And I'm sure there's more to the army than that. But my limited experience of just playing it for 2 evenings, something like that, made me go, I think I bought enough of this. I might paint some gun mages because I used to love gun mages and it was a big part of what appealed me to War Machine as opposed to Hordes originally as the bit of Signal that I dabbled in Mark 2, 1, whatever. I just played it and it was part that I felt like my opponent wasn't getting a fun experience, but then it was also that I'm like, right, but if it just doesn't work, what happens to my army? Oh, it falls apart. And I'm going further, reinforce that by playing Chimera into somebody else proxying the army and remove them.
Ooh.
So there are massive vulnerabilities within Gravediggers, in my opinion. They are very, very good. They're very strong, and they have a lot of tricks, and they have a lot of Pathfinder and some tricky eyesight in place and things like that. But they definitely they're not as resilient as Storm Legion, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I certainly found that when I kind of... I started landing things like the Invictus rocket on their troops, because then it becomes like, oh, okay, I've got this whole squad that's there shooting me down, and they'll just dig in. It'd be impossible to hit. Boost a rocket into the... Oh, look, they're all knocked down in the trenches.
Yeah.
And then Magnus comes along with his rocket launcher, and it doesn't matter at that point. You're knocked down. I can just start taking off models.
I'm hoping there's more to it than it seems, but it feels a bit... I think my problem is partly that player experience, but also it just felt a bit one trick. And you can probably say that about a lot of armies, I suppose. You could say that about Chimera to an extent, because of if you don't get the Alpha Strike, you're just screwed. And that is true, but you just stay out of range and wait for your opportunity and be patient. But it felt a bit like if you don't get that, if you don't make the most of your ranged attacks and really do damage and somebody can defend against it, then it felt like it was a bit all over.
When you say having to hang back, like how many times are you winning your games with Chimera from objective as opposed to assassination?
Most of the time, I always prioritise assassination. That's become my playstyle for quite a long time now. Sorry, what did I say? I always prioritise scenario. I misspoke, didn't I?
Yeah.
Listen to myself in my own head and went, you said the wrong word there. I always prioritise scenario. Always.
Okay. You said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, you let...
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
I will say that has to be how I play with Baronova. Baronova ain't going to kill you. That army that I've got planned for the Welsh that I'm slowly painting up, that is a grind your face off and, try and win on scenario. Although I need to learn to play the Baronova army quicker because it's a lot of chunk and it's a lot of dice.
So you can't, interestingly, as a contrast, you can't grind with Chimera. You're just dead. And then the game I played last Thursday, I was losing the attrition war massively, but was ridiculously up on point. I think I scored in his turn 3 when he was removing large chunks of my army. I scored well, and then I scored well in his second. He was played 2. In his second turn, I scored well, and then in my following turn, I scored extremely well. Went up something stupid, and then obviously went to wait to his turn to win. But my army was disappearing, but I scored so well. It was something like 8-2 or something like that by the end of his second player's third turn.
That is something I'm increasingly finding against Chimera at this point. It's like you've got to give them something so that they come in, but not enough so that you don't have an ability to fight back. But at the same point, you've also got to have enough there that you can stop them scoring everything. And it's a difficult balance to manage.
It is. And as a Chimera player, you haven't, as somebody else pointed out to me, you haven't got anything cheap to contest frivolously. So if you're going second and somebody else is playing that game to you, it's very difficult to kind of go, I'll just throw those in. They're like, yeah, but they're 7 points. I'll throw those in. They're 8 points. Oh my God. There's nothing cheap. There's nothing cheap to contest with. However, it's not an army that thrives on that. It's an army of wait for your moment and then throw it all down someone's throat, or surgically remove the general, which is what I did do last week. The general felt like he was safe, and I removed him from the middle of the table, and I knew that I was going to lose my heavy that I threw in, but he was a lot cheaper than the general, and it broke the middle of the army. It's very surgical army, and I really enjoy it.
I was going to say, you're talking about, having to contest the units that aren't cheap. As someone whose mainline units that I'm throwing in are 10 and 11 points, cry me a river. I'm paying 10 points for Man of War Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, but you have cheaper units. You just don't buy them.
I have cheaper units, yes, but they would be utterly useless in the current game.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, I can't have a frontline contesting unit that's made up of Winter Command infantry.
Mechanics. Yeah.
Mechanics don't come in units, they're solos.
Good point. Well, not for you, but yeah.
Yeah, and even then they're 12, 16 with 5 boxes, which is victim stats. Standard rifle will take them out half the time.
But in Storm Legion, they get chunky mechanics, don't they? Chunky engineers.
The unit.
They have the unit 3.
They are resilient in many different ways.
Yeah.
Although I will say that this last weekend, I did find out why you play the Arcanists with Baronova. There was that sudden realisation of, they're not just for putting focus on jacks. Because my my Colossal had died, and then, okay, well, what do I do with a unit of Arcane 5 spray bots? I was like, oh, wait, Baranova's got Invocations of Wrath, which means I get an additional die, and I get focus back, and
yes,
I got 3
the Baranova dream.
Yeah, I got 3 or 4 focus through the game off them, just going around going, and spray this thing over here, spray this thing over here. But they are 13 in 1 box each, and they are so sad.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I mean, again, they are a cheap unit and they are largely there for this Jack has a focus and this thing has magic weapons, which surprises some people when you put it on units. It's like, haha, these incorporeal things are up close in front of all your stuff. Like, cool, magic weapon? Doesn't that just work on Jacks? No, it's model unit. Oh, yeah, very sad.
No.
I mean, we talked about Signar starting their list with the Squire. Most of my Cador lists start with them.
Yeah, there's an element of that. Yep, start with a unit of Arcanists, 2 is pushing it, but 1 is, yeah. It takes all that focus pressure off the caster, and suddenly you can do things.
Well, it also, not just the focus pressure, it means that just about any Jack becomes entirely autonomous, like before you'd have it as your journeyman with a Warjack is, okay, I'm off on this flank. You can have a Warjack run off out of control and just be fully fueled and run quite happily wherever he wants to go.
I will admit I more often use Magnus for that, but that's a big investment. And an investment that's often worth it, because certainly in this last weekend, having a fully fueled Invictus just walk into, I think it was a Gravedigger's Heavy and Light, and just trash them both in a turn. That worked for me.
Yeah, I can see why.
You don't expect it from something that's just a power 18 Jack, but when you think of it, it's like, oh no, it's power 18 on the main weapon and power 18 on the offhand, and then you give it 3 focus, and then the Gravedigger Heavies, with the greatest respect, are not heavily armoured. That's what I mean.
There's a fragility to them, isn't there?
That seems to be their great weakness. They are, amazingly, I do have Gravediggers up. So is there Heavy the Valiant or the Patriot? It's the Valiant.
I think it's interesting how our perception of something being resilient maybe it comes from Cador being just bigger, but I think things like Invictus, I don't know how long ago, fairly recently, started looking at actually how resilient, the Big Pig's pretty resilient, but Invictus is. But you look at his stats and his rules, and you go, he's got a big base, he's amazing, but actually, he isn't that much more than a normal heavy. He's got some very interesting rules, and his weapons are interesting.
Well, I mean, he's a Cador Heavy. He's
exactly what I was about to say. Yeah,
he's armor 20, and normally they'd have a shield, but he's got Hellwrought, and he's 34 boxes. So he's just chunky. He's at that point on the curve where he's just past what's the easy to kill in one go. You need to go in.
Both of them seem to be more than that, didn't they? Because they're physically bigger. They seem to be Pig and Invictus. But they are more than that, but not much more.
Pig will go down decently easy, especially if you remember the Blessed card.
Indeed.
So I would always take for if you're taking your command cards, having Blessed there just for one turn to go. I need to kill this thing. It's going to have a buff on. Let's put this in the arsenal for it. But yeah, Invictus as well. Having things like if Invictus takes the charge and doesn't die, it's like, okay, well, you get the retaliatory strike on the way in, then you get the bonus strike in the maintenance phase of the next turn, then you get the 2 base attacks with the flamethrower, then you get up to 3 more attacks because Magnus, what's he going to do other than hand out 3 focus? Like, it's enough to really start causing some serious hurt very quickly. As well as that, the 3-inch melee really doesn't hurt. A 3-inch melee with a chain weapon. Although people do watch out for if you use a Thresher and Magnus is close behind. Just warning you of that one now. Just that moment where you look at it and go, oh, Magnus is very close, isn't he? Yes.
Could chop his own head off. Hey.
Yeah.
The other downside of 3-inch melee is that you really don't tie people down in melee like you're expecting them to.
No.
Oh, I can just walk all the way over here. That's not where I want you to be.
I actually think that's one of the very interesting things that Mark IV has done. So Mark III, obviously with free strikes, arcs, all this kind of stuff, once stuff is in melee, unless it's got parry, it's very hard to do much manoeuvring around. You've got that sort of 1 to 2 inches of the melee range that you can kind of dance around in, but not much else. Whereas Mark IV, with the amount of unstoppable and just how melee ranges and free strikes work now, it just becomes like, well, I'll just walk away.
Yeah, you can't charge though.
No, you can't.
No.
You can't charge out, but you can just walk.
Yeah, you can.
Like there was a point in the game I had against the Gravediggers where there was a jack right in front of Vilcool, which, you know, Vilcool was down to 2/3 health. I was going for the assassination run. In Mark III, that would have been a really risky thing to do because you're looking at +2 to hit as Vilcool would leave melee, and then a bonus die on the damage, which just becomes a bit shaky. It's like, I could die from this, but it is an assassination run. Whereas Mark IV is like, pay to cyclone out, charge.
But the other thing I think about with those long melee ranges, and I've done it with the Trichimerax, and I was planning on doing it on the game last week. One of the games at the event. Anyway, either way, with the Wyvern, actually it was last week with the Wyvern, is it's got a 3-inch melee. So the thing that you really want to kill and attack doesn't have to be your primary charge target. You charge the thing you can see, but you've got 3 inches.
Yeah.
So you can move away from the thing that you can stretch your charge 3 inches away from the little minion guy you can see poking out from behind the trees, charge through the trees, keep him within 3, land well past him but within 3, hit him with your 3 attack, so range 3 attack, and then pile everything else into the caster that stood there.
Yeah.
Or other choice target.
Now, there is a massive downside to be remembered as well with the 3-inch melee. And that is how it affects your ranged weapons. So, for instance, if you don't have Gunfighter, you can't fire out. You have to fire at stuff that's in your melee.
Yeah, and none of the Colossals have Gunfighter.
Yep.
I don't think.
As I had to point out to someone the other day, because they're firing the Crucible Guard one, and they started the turn, they were firing out, and I went, does that Colossal have Gunfighter? Like, no. Does it matter? Like, yeah, it does. Now, admittedly, they then went, okay, can we just, if we do these melee attacks and I kill this thing I'm melee with, it's like, yeah, sure, we'll work it that way. Like, there's no need to be kind of going rewinding 2/3 of a turn for this, but you need to remember that.
Also, they're sprays too, aren't they? And therefore they can spray something that they are engaged with, and therefore can hit the thing further away.
This was the rockets.
Yeah.
But even with the sprays, you've got to target the thing that you are in melee with.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
So
it's a straight line. Yeah.
You can maneuver around. There's some shenanigans to be done with that. But still, there is, it does get a little awkward. And again, you need to remind people, it's like, some weapons have pistol, some don't. Look on your cards.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people who try and fire things in melee and go, oh yeah, it's, what's your defense? It's this. Like, okay. No, it's +4 because you don't have pistol.
Yep.
So,
what's hilarious is when you're fighting in a forest and you suddenly realise that actually it's also concealment.
Oh, that one gets me every time. That's something you genuinely don't consider when you're firing in melee. It's like, yes, you're concealed from each other. We're 2 inches away from each other. How? But yes, it's like, rules-wise, yes, very correct. Like fighting in the same cloud.
That is better.
I mean, yes, but it is also more cinematic because you're kind of dodging in and out of the smoke and whatever. It's like, it works. The modifier should apply, but you are seeing these two people locked in like face-to-face combat. But yeah, I can see why, for just the sake of simplicity, they don't disregard.
I don't think I've ever zoomed out to a cinematic view of my game, or zoomed in.
Really? You're missing part.
Yeah.
You're missing part of the fun, Benj.
I can't say that. Well, I'm not playing anything at the moment, so I'm missing all the fun. No, it's usually a bit too sort of like, the sensory overload of what's around you. Usually bad smells and
okay, yep, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it kind of takes you out of the fantasy kind of aspect. Unless my opponent's wearing some sort of like wizard outfit, which I've never come across yet.
I find taking photos can help. Taking low-level photos can be quite cool.
I have. Well, I've done that with your Crucible Guard stuff, and it when there is a lot of uniformity, it looks great. Right? But that's probably why Mike's stuff gets compliments, because there is a lot of good uniformity in it as well.
Yeah,
I mean that's very deliberate, because I'm looking at Mark IV Cador. They are very like World War II Russian troops, so it fits that they are all. Basically cut from the same cloth. They're using the same paint for all the armour.
Yeah.
it mentally works for me. Admit, there are some bits in there that are deliberately meant to differentiate, so that you'll find like weird hair colours and odd panels that are painted blue and yellow. But I mean that's the key with a lot of like consistent army painting, though. It's like you've got the uniformity. How do you then say this unit here is different to this unit here, other than the gun they're carrying?
Well, we were just talking about uniformity before we started, with regards to painting recipes and how we're absolutely terrible at remembering.
Yep.
What did what? So.
Oh, I've just made that.
I have a tendency to not make recipes. I have a tendency to because of colourblindness, I have a limited palette and actually not even get the paints out. They tend to only have stuff out. Okay, I chop between armies. That makes that a bit more challenging. But generally speaking, the colours that I'm using are the colours that are out. But I still struggle at times. Did I do that? What was that highlight?
I've actually taken now two. So my paints are spread across 3 really useful boxes. Yeah, 3. And there's no way I can reliably remember once they're away again what I used. So I've now bought another smaller, really useful box for what I'm painting at the moment, and I just take out the paints that I'm using for the army I'm on and keep them in there, which is a disturbing number for my Cador, quite frankly. But it's good to be able to remember, like, what was this? Oh, it must be this grey here, because that's the only grey I've got.
I mean, that's fine if you're that well planned out. My issue earlier was painted this model 6 months ago. I'm now painting the duplicate one. What did I do? I found it.
In fairness, a lot of the time I just use the best guess. And there are a lot of paints that are like, is this Barak Noir Burgundy or is this Murderous Magenta? Does it matter? Not to Murderous Magenta. Sanguine based, that's probably closer. Because there's a lot of interchangeable, like, is this Hammerfall Khaki or Rakarth Flesh? But then again, I suppose that's what happens when you've got like 5 different paint brands just sat there staring at you.
I was going to say, I definitely have diversified with paint brands, but I don't have too many confusing colours. Almost all my washes are still, I still get TW ones, but I am branching out in contrast paints into Army Painter speed paints. I quite like some of those colours and some of their, so that's definitely causing me a bit of that.
There is
gradually.
There's an Army Painter speed paint now that I'm definitely glad I've got 2 bottles of and would replace every single time when it runs out. And that is Zealot Yellow. Because if you want a good way to do Warjack eyes, as in that sort of subtle inner glow kind of thing, white Zealot Yellow over the top, and you get this wonderful sort of like bright centre with orange edges. That really works quite nicely.
Cool.
Also, for blonde hair, absolutely perfect. Just put on a nice Rakarth Flesh or Menoth White base, or even just pure white, and put Zealot Yellow over the top. Blonde hair instantly, rather than my old process, which is like 4 or 5 layers of stuff that I've quite frankly forgotten now. But yeah, Zealot Yellow, really nice one. Ghoul Green and Prismatic Bolt are also good on that sort of. I like the sort of turquoisey, greeny speed paint stuff. I find it very useful for doing sort of arcane things.
I have a confusing number of GW contrasts that are turquoisey, green, blue colours. There's too many of them.
Don't they really work well, though? And they look nice.
They do. They look lovely. I just want to use the same one that I used last time, please, and don't know which one it was.
For me, for the GW side, Aethematic Blue all the time. That's my standard. This is a plasma thing. Paint.
I don't understand people who don't use blue as the plasma. I saw someone use green the other day. I was like, that's not right.
See, for me, that's
the other. You're putting your army in green, aren't you? Though, so you're going to put blue.
Yeah, green is the colour you use when you don't want to use blue for those. So, for instance, for my Ultramarines, I would use green because the main body of the armour is blue. And you don't but me.
What? Plasma's always been blue, regardless of because it's an electric blue.
No.
No. Okay.
No, I'm fairly certain. This may be Mandela affecting myself again, so bear with me. Berenstain, bear with me even. The plasma for Ultramarines, I'm fairly certain, has always been green.
I can picture both, unfortunately.
So, but this is also the reason why for my Ultramarines, when I came to paint a Force weapon, one of the Force weapons, I was like, all the tutorials of Force weapons are in blue. I don't want that to go with blue armour. So I have a green and yellow force sword, which works quite nicely. And now having done an entire army's worth of Grey Knights with force swords in one go, I'm getting pretty decently good at doing glazes up and down weapons.
Oh, were they finished yet? The Grey Knight.
We don't talk about that, Ben. They were painted enough for that event, which meant they were. Shut up. Stick a sock in it. No, they were only ever going to be to the point where they were base coated, and the force weapons and skin was just like a nod to let's pick out some little bits of detail here. I will get back to the Grey Knights after I've done my stuff for the Welsh, because again, the Welsh is 2 lists fully painted, and 2 lists fully painted for me is a challenge because I am the slowest painter in the world. Therefore, I have to plan my lists now so I can have enough painted by then.
I mean, I'm planning my list now, but yeah, that's a sensible thing to do.
You could turn out quite a lot of stuff in a weekend, Kurt, if you wanted to.
Yes, I could.
Yeah, whereas I could...
If I had to provide the time, obviously, yeah. I
could probably turn out 2 or 3 3-man units if I really, really tried in a weekend. Because I'm just not that fast and would lose... After the first one, I'd do one, and then I would lose all intention of doing anything else.
No, I am. My eldest has taken the mick out of my hyper-focus abilities, where if I'm like, no, I need to do this, then it will be done. It will just be, I don't lose focus. If I want to do it and I really want to do it, they're done.
Oh, I can hyper-focus to the point where I have achieved a thing. Once I have achieved the thing, if I can get focus on the next thing, then I can move on to it. If I can't, that's it. It's done. I can't move from there.
I can imagine what you mean, but when it comes to painting an army, then I'm quite good at staying on it and going. I mean, not beyond the list. Not beyond. I can get that focus for a list. So at the moment, I picked up the Trichromax right now, which is not in the current list that I'm playing, which means I'm poking at it and I don't really know what to do with it because it isn't in the current list. It's in the other list, or it's in the list I was playing a few weekends ago, and I do want to play it and I want to finish painting it, and it's most of the way there, but I'm trying to focus on my Nixian list because I liked playing that last week and I want to play it more and I want it to be fully painted. It's a weird kind of focus of linking 2 parts of the different parts of the hobby together.
See, I would need to be careful with the Trichromax because infamously huge bases are my blocker for painting.
This is the most complicated thing I've ever even seen. unless you do what a lot of people have done is paint the whole thing in a uniform way. And of course, I'm not doing that. I'm doing 3 different creatures in different colours.
Oh wow! Well,
one is my main. One is the main colours of the pink and the gold and the green that my Chimera principally are. One is the colours of the shade, the darker purple with the green, and the other one is very metallic. So I'm going for different metals with some red.
I like the metallic one. That's one of the best heads or body.
And it's the melee. Yeah, it's the melee body. Yeah.
It looks quite smashing.
But it's a hell of an undertaking. It really is.
I can imagine.
It really is the kind of model that just burns you out, I can imagine.
And that's kind of why I'm putting it down a bit and then painting the Nixian list that I played last week and going, right, I'd like to get that finished because that's achievable. Because most of it is mostly done. Therefore, I could focus in on it and get it well on the way and get that list painted and then come back to the Trichromax. Because it's like tableable. People would not turn around and go, oh, it's not finished. Well, maybe unless you're married to Dawn, perhaps. But it looks finished enough, but it's not obviously not. I don't call it finished yet. But I can come away from it, paint some things, come back to it. I'd get it finished.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the problem with those huge bases is that my standard painting style struggles at that scale. Because I mean, I've changed the order of stuff slightly recently. But my usual habit of, paint the thing up, apply wash liberally, preferably with a roller, and then kind of do a bit of tidy up. Washing at that scale doesn't work.
No.
You're left with some big, ugly tide marks if you're not careful.
It's like flat areas, yeah. This doesn't have, luckily, this doesn't have big, well, some, but not to that extent. But yeah, big jacks, definitely you get what you just described. Totally agree.
Yeah. I think what I need to do is find, so I need to back this up slightly. My normal wash is an Army Painter one. It's the Army Painter Strong Tone, which isn't just a wash. As I'm now learning, it seems to be an early form of contrast paint in that it seems to have some form of light satin varnish baked in.
Oh yes, like the dips they used to have. They did.
Yeah,
yes,
but
like the dip. Yeah,
but those are very strong, proper wood stain varnishes. This is something subtly different. It brings a satin finish to the thing. So what I might have to do is find a satin varnish so that I can get that same reflectivity off the model I'm painting, and then learn to pin wash. Which just does fill me with all sorts of terrors, but would solve the problem. It would mean I get the whole thing of having a wash in the crevices to kind of pop out the main detail. But
you mean oil? You mean with oils, don't you?
No. I'm talking pin washing. So
yeah. But pin washing works well with oil.
Oh, okay. Yes, no, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, we were coming at that from two different angles. No, that's fine. Yeah. So what I could do is actually just use a satin varnish on the model itself, and then use an oil wash, which would then, because the varnish creep more naturally along the crevices.
Yeah, didn't it? I mean, I'm not advocating you do it. I'm just thinking that's along the lines of what you were saying.
Yeah.
They are complicated things to paint. I find with the trichomerics, my bigger problem is, and I have very dry skin, but I'm rubbing paint off as I handle it, because you can't, mostly I handle a model by the base. This thing's too big and all kinds of weighted in different ways. And I find myself rubbing paint off in places, which is really annoying, because you have to turn it over, because it's basically 3 snakes all wound around each other. So yeah, it's a beast. It is. I love it. It's fantastic, but it is a challenge.
I think that's where my method of painting didn't have that, because my Mastodon that had the black undercoat, then the grey, then the white ink, then 2 different coats of green before I really needed to start handling it to paint it in any detail. So there's enough paint on there that also had like a couple of weeks to dry between those initial coats and going back to do detail.
That's a very good way to start. I agree.
Which, yeah, I mean, I've tried doing the whole thing with painting large models where the paint is only just cured by the time you start, and you do start losing chunks, and it's like, at what point am I doing more damage than I am adding detail? At some point as a painter, you have to learn to stop and just kind of go, okay, we're going to leave that for a while.
I'm not very good at that.
No, I can imagine. But because there's always that thing of, well, the model's here, I'm here, the paint's here, I have the motivation. Like, when will I have this motivation again? I don't know. It's always a tricky one.
Yeah. But I'm going with the put it down a bit, pick it up a bit, put it down a bit, and then it's not my primary focus in a minute, so it will come back. I mean, it's most of the way there. It's 3/4 done. It just needs some of it. I'm not entirely happy with the way that where I have washed bits of it in places. I'm not totally happy with where it's landed, and it needs some more time and attention. I kind of want to do some freehand work on it as well, so that's much later down the line. We'll see.
Yeah. One thing we probably should discuss is that we actually talked about beforehand, and it is getting off the topic of paint, so that we can later return in the painting table. Even though we may have already gone over some of it already. Oh well, never mind. Is an issue that's come up since the last time we recorded. And that is the update to Command Cadres and Command Starters, which came as a bit of an interesting piece of news, and changes the way that the game is changes the way that armies are built in future. I think it has very little effect on what's come out so far, but it's interesting. So there was an article on this on Steamforged. If I remember, I will try and put it in the show notes. I'd most likely forgotten, so sorry. I thought I'd apologise beforehand,
Indeed. Very good of you.
So just to go quickly on their notes, because they've said that the TLDR is, and this is something that's been poorly communicated so far and needs better talking about, but we'll get to that. So the article says a faction is an overarching group based on region, culture, or ideology, e.g. Cador, Signar, or Crix. An army is a subgroup of compatible models within the faction, e.g. the Winter Corps and Cador Old Umbre. Factions can have more than one army, such as Cador, and command cadres are 30-point forces that can play for more than one army. Now, with Old Umbre coming, there's a problem with this, because it means that you've got a mix of focus and fury. And it leaves part of the game kind of hanging in a bit weird. So they've decided to change some of the cadres into starters. So, I'm presuming as of this article, I can't really tell, the Cador Annihilator cadre has become a command starter for the Winter Corps. Dusk Ghosts of Ios has become a command starter for Duskhair's Callus. The Orgoth Cursebound, which I can't even remember what's in that, is now part of Orgoth Sea Raiders.
That's all the Doom Reavery Orgoth.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen Orgoth in so long that I just generally don't know what's happened to their army. I don't know whether it's just a regional thing or what, but I just do not see Orgoth. Fellblood's Armada is now part of the Southern Creel's Brownblood Marauders, and the Chimera Shard Nocturnes are now part of the Shadowflame Shard.
So that leaves some unmentioned cadres to my mind.
So as this says, there is one exception. The Signar Stormford cadre will become the command starter for Storm Legion, but in the interests of balance, and because Gravediggers are only just released, it will also still be playable in Signar Gravediggers.
There's another one, though.
Yes, there is.
Shard Incarnate. So Chimera Shard Incarnate.
I'm guessing there was just no change to that.
So that means, in theory, it can be played into both in whatever. But I'm sure we'll find out, and that may get amended or corrected or mentioned.
All of the command cadres remain unchanged and will still be playable in both armies of their respective factions. Now, this does mean that you've got the SKS stuff for Cador, which can transfer over to Old Umbre, but we know there are going to be some changes there.
That's the starter, the two-player set.
Yes, which is it's being released as part of its own separate thing there as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as was always going to happen, we're now seeing the two-player boxes being broken out into their individual components for just general sale. Because once people have got their in, it's nice and easy to then go, there you go, there's your separate thing. So yes, you've now got SKS 6, which is the Cador half, and Signar Hellslingers, which is the Signar half.
I mean, it all paints an interesting picture, because lore-wise, you can see the Cador cadre actually going undercover, working with Umbre or whatever, and they teased the mini crate to fit. And so they've had the idea for that, and they came out and said recently that the next Focus on Fury vehicle is going to be a super solo in Umbre.
Yes.
And I can get that, and that's fine. The other point that they brought up is from the aesthetic standpoint, they didn't want Man o' Wars traipsing through the Umbre forest with the Annihilator cadres.
Yeah, which I can see that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the bit that I find very curious about when they actually made this decision is that, while it does make sense, as I just mentioned, the SKS-6 only came out very recently, and I wonder how much of that is just shoehorning because they were the flagship product. But then if you look further afield at the Ghosts of Ios, there is, I think, quite a bit of upset from Dust players, because the Ghosts of Ios lore specifically calls out that they work for all the different houses, not just Dust.
Well,
and so
they aren't tied.
Weird.
Yeah, they aren't tied to a house. You're right.
Yeah, and so it's a bit weird that they are now tied down.
I do wonder, and this is kind of purely theoretical, how much of this is doing their best to tidy up a situation they've been left with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because obviously Privateer had... The more we learn about how the game is going, the more we learn that Privateer had one idea for how the game was going to go, the direction it was going to go, aesthetically, gameplay-wise, and model-wise. And we're learning that that's being firstly tailored by Steamforged, but now the direction is being, in some cases, reversed, in some cases, deflected.
Or redefined, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think the implication in that article near the end is that Privateer didn't have a plan. They were pretty much firing from the hip, riding the success and chasing victory with various releases, and they didn't have a plan. And Steam Forge have now said, this is where we're going in the next 5 years. We need to map this all out.
Yeah.
These bits don't fit, so what are we doing here?
And what I would say is we're relatively early in the release cycle. A lot of stuff doesn't have their second army or more yet. So doing this now, putting the restrictions in, this is probably the least painful point they could do it. Obviously, they've got that weird one with the Signar Storm Legion stuff, which is still a bit of a problem. But by being
but that fits also. You've got two legitimate military forces. Yes, of course they would have troops that share between them.
It's the most compatible, isn't it? Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, at this point, if they're restrictive now, what they can do later is go, oh, okay, we figured out a way that we can just tweak this. We can add this tag to this cadre, and yes, they can go between two armies now. There's nothing to say they can't free things up later. It's much easier to say now with one army, no, this is locked to one army, and then free it up later than it is to have them as free reign through the entire of the edition, then suddenly go, oh, hang on, no, this is really broken near the end.
And Gravediggers are the exception because, like you say, they just came out and people will have run out and bought them.
Yeah.
But then the Umbrae Discord actually had quite a lot of noise because people had been buying the Annihilated cadre and working really hard on paint jobs and conversions to make them Umbrified. And they were not a happy bunch.
No, I'm not surprised. But these decisions are never going to be popular. Never.
Oh, God, no. Never.
As long as I have my own private reservations with this. I know that I've spoken to people from Steamforge, and they said that from the very start, people have been very much enjoying having Vilkul as a super solar inside Old Umbrae. I'm more skeptical because I don't like the idea of one model having two sets of rules in the game. That's a personal thing. And it's like, okay, so are they just being lazy when they turn out for Old Umbrae or what? Because they're not the same thing. You can't have two Warcaster level pieces on the field. One of them has to effectively be juniorified, like Magnus was. It's interesting. But I think the solution they've come up with is the least bad, if you want to put it that way. But it remains to be seen what comes out of it. There is also one other. I don't know when this was signposted. It seems to be common knowledge. I can't remember where it came from. In that Yana for Kador is going to have, effectively like Old Witch in Mark III, have a separate card for Old Umbrae so that she can work with beasts.
Yeah.
Is that the Bear Rider?
Yeah. They always said that she was going to work for Umbrae, and in one of the AMAs they said that it was going to be like an Old Witch 2-3 deal. However...
Apotheosis caster?
Yes. It's an interesting peek into the design, just veering off topic slightly, because her rules don't seem to feel to fit Wintercore very well.
No.
And I've always considered that she seems to have been designed with a different army in mind. And now that she's out and we're seeing the artwork and armor design of Umbrae, she is very clearly wearing Umbrae armor, though I wonder on some level if she was designed for Umbrae and then backported to Wintercore or to fit that Apotheosis release.
Yeah, I think very much that's a case of someone whose model was perhaps ready a little bit early, and it's a good display piece. And it just became shove it in there, it'll be fine.
Yeah, but on the topic of her being release for Umbrae is Jamie P had mentioned that she is actually getting, along with a version 2 that is just a Warlock version, they are tweaking her card a bit and changing her rules up slightly. So we'll have to wait and see what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
Oh wow, she's actually going to be a Warlock version.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be a Warlock. The rumor I'd heard is that Glow Up is she's losing possibly Battle Lust on both sides, but yeah, we'll have to see what that looks like. But consider her current rules as not final, basically.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, looking at the game as a whole, consider everyone's rules not final, because once a year everything's going to get a little bit of a kind of like a nudge. I think a lot of stuff will be fairly stable, but I think every year we'll see some tweaks in places that perhaps there are some sticking points, should we say. But yeah, now that you've mentioned Yana not really fitting standard Cadre and being more Old Umbre, there is that question of, when you look at Huxley, does that feel more Storm Legion or more Stormforge? And I realise it's a different question, because obviously you don't have Stormforge.
Stormforge, you mean rather than Gravediggers? Do you mean he felt like he was attached to the Cadre, you mean?
Yeah. He feels more like the Cadre than he does the main army.
I see what you mean.
Because, I mean, if you look at what's there, you've got, Athena de Barrow, which she's very much based off the Knights.
Yeah.
So your Storm Knights and stuff. You've got Calder, who's based off your Storm Lancers. You've got Wolf, who is playing more towards the medium bases, which I can never remember the names. Assailers and Thunderers. And what's Huxley? He feels more experimental weirdness.
Yeah.
Because it's a flight suit.
Good point.
And Sparkhammer is definitely more about that makes cool stuff kind of thing.
Especially if you see him as the evolution of, what's his face?
Nemo.
Oh my god, gone as a start. Yes, Nemo.
Like
a new Nemo, doesn't he?
And you can see Huxley as an evolution of Darius.
Yeah,
because it's very much in that same vein of large. He doesn't have the half jacks with him, but it's kind of in that same sort of large base caster does weird stuff vein. I mean, there's a lot of the casters that you can, and I've said this before, where you can trace that bloodline back to earlier casters.
Yeah.
It's like in Baronova, you can see reflections of Zakova just hanging around there. You look at Vilcool and you can see a little bit of Sorsha and a little bit of Strakov, and they're kind of doing similar things, but it's more refined and very often less fiddly. You don't have those feats that you have to sit there for 10 minutes parsing, just going, hang on, how does this work again?
Is this control area or not control area, or is it what models does it affect?
Although I will say
they're all a bit cleaner, aren't they?
Yeah, I do have to read Baronovas to people every time, because that is one of those ones that's got a bit of Mark II fiddle in, because it's got that whole thing of, if you start in my control area, you can't charge, run, or charge, slam, or trample. Not run. Run is one of the ones that's excluded. But if you're outside my control area and shoot in, that's when you get the minus range. That's Mark II fiddle at a very low level.
Yeah.
But a lot of the feats now that you're seeing are just like, it's +2 def and this.
Yeah, they are a lot simpler.
So, I mean, no less effective for what they're doing, like the point you have to make, but definitely simpler. Also, having played into the
more of them,
go
on. More of them are all models, and less, not none, but less of them are just battle group or just infantry. Some are, but less of them are.
Well, interestingly, I know that at least for things like Calder, that got removed. It used to be Calder's feat was battle group only, and now. There's still a bit that's battle group only, but now it's like, nope, it's +2 def for everyone, which suddenly takes that feat, ramps it up, and makes it something interesting and powerful. So, yes, I was about to say, I have now played into the Hivemind Cadre for Crix, and that feat just, no, it scares me. It's like, we have +def, and if you miss, we get to teleport.
Yeah, not move 2 inches, teleport.
Yes, which is how I ended up with Vilcool in the middle of a Crix army, just nowhere near anything after running trip ones on the way in to try and hit their caster. Ouch. It's a bad time. Like, haha, I'm here, I've charged you, where did you go? Sad times.
That was like admonition, but with bells on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But overall, going back to topic at hand, this seems to be much more in line with the idea of actually having a plan and the long-term health of the game in mind.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think while Steamforge keep making decisions like this, yes, there will be moments of unpopularity that are going to be awkward and weird and whatever. But I would rather have 10 minutes of I'm sad now and have
I like that idea.
And have a healthy game than woohoo, I get to play with all the toys and watching me the game's hideously imbalanced.
Yep. I'm gonna take all my toys home.
Yes. I mean, we've seen what happens when people take their toys home. They don't come back for several years. Or at all, in many cases. And I think, we're definitely, even month by month, seeing the amount of people who are just kind of poking their nose around the door again and going, ooh, is this still a thing?
Yeah, so many people. Really great.
Yes. You start seeing names you don't expect to see and haven't seen in 10 years. Like, oh, you're here. Oh, lovely. So, yeah. So, Cadres, command starters, all that lovely stuff. I guess when your second army comes out, check what you can build.
It'll be in the app. Yeah.
Yep. Keep the app up to date.
Well, that was another thing they did say on the Discord, was because with these changes, Dust and Orgoth don't currently actually have a cadre at all at the moment. Both their cadres got made to the command starter.
Yeah.
Matt actually said that, watch this space, every army will have every faction will have a cadre. So there is stuff coming for Orgoth and Dust, so they're not going to be left out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several holdovers in the app at this point. There's not just like having the old curse-bound stuff on there when they don't technically have a cadre anymore. There's also the fact that they've still got the Scout Warcasters hanging about in there when we know that they're not Steamforged's preferred way to play the small version of the game, because very often
I think the Scout definition has actually been removed from the rulebook, but it's still on the cards.
Yeah, so
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of having a living game that moves along and that people are actually looking at and care about and want to improve. I'm actually thinking about it. Okay, so here is an interesting question. Over the entire of Mark II and Mark III, we usually went about 2 months at a time before someone would go on the rules forum and ask a question that just kind of, for about 2 weeks, completely upended the game on its head. We haven't seen, I don't think, with maybe one exception of like the Guard Tower or something like that. We haven't really seen that in Mark IV. Is that a sign?
We have the rules forum in the same sense that we did, but I take your point. I mean, Discord in equivalent. I can't think of an example.
We still have Facebook groups. We still have Discord. We still have areas for people to discuss these stuff and ask questions and go, how does this work? We just haven't seen it. And I'm not sure whether that's a mark of a smaller community that's not finding the exploits as much, which I doubt, because it was generally the top players who were finding things and bringing them to people's attention.
Or playing them and upsetting people.
Yeah, or if it's just a sign of an overall more robust rule set.
Possibly. It certainly feels it. I think the win rates and the balance, I think, reinforces that and supports that, if that's the case.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Because, I mean, I remember, even as late as the last couple of months of Mark II, finding stuff that had been played for years and going, hang on, this doesn't work. Which...
Do you know what else supports it? It's not just faction balance. It's balance within factions. That it isn't that there isn't a Haley 2, there isn't a caster within any faction that is the definite win. You can play. There are some that definitely have some leanings above others, and there are popular opinions about certain casters and certain different warlocks.
Yeah.
But you can put almost anything you like on the table and have a good time, and it'd be effective into anything.
I would agree. I mean, I'm looking at Kador now, and I'm trying to think if there's anything that I would say, oh no, I can't. I don't think I could ever put that on the table. The closest I probably get to stuff that I wouldn't play, in all honesty, is the Shock Trooper Pikemen. And even they, for 7 points, aren't the worst things in the world.
No, they're just a little bit out of place.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit like Yana, is that they are a dedicated melee unit in a shooting army.
Yeah, and even then I'm looking at them going, well, they got an extra speed on the Wrecking Crew. And they've got more power. Oh, if I put Iron Flesh on them, could I deliver them? And it's a genuine.
Stay there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a genuine question. Or wield secrets and just send them charging through woodland and whatever, because nothing ever says fun like a unit of stealthy pikemen with explosive tipped pikes.
And some of that comes back to the January update, as in I've been Saturday this evening will come onto painting table, but I'm looking at Nixian right now for Chimera. And Nixian was definitely the afterthought before January. Now, I can't tell you what changed. There were some changes to Nixian, but essentially she's still the same concept of being a backline, spell slinging, maybe spell assassination, but that wasn't there before. She definitely gained something in spell assassination, but her feat's still the same, and conceptually she's still the same. Except now she seems to be quite playable in a variety of lists, in a variety of ways, which didn't seem to be there before. Maybe that wasn't discovered. Maybe it was an assumption that because she had no direct offense that weakened her, but actually she does very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking at the caster level, again, looking for all I know, Kador, I mean, there are casters that I wouldn't play currently, but it wouldn't be because they're not strong. It would be because there are things I would rather do with other casters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I play a lot of Baronova because she's got absolutely great feet, a good toolbox, that works. Would I use Borishuk? Probably not, because he's much more narrow and he lends himself to a certain way of playing the game, and he's that whole thing of he lends himself to either assassination or sending in jacks from ridiculous angles, and he doesn't.
But here's the interesting thing: is it absolutely appeals to different people, because I think Baronova is my least used warcaster.
Oh, that's interesting.
I quite enjoy running Boris.
Yeah, I don't enjoy running Boris.
Oh, it's interesting that you don't. Well, is it that you've played her and don't enjoy playing Baronova, or is it that you just don't like the look of her? I'm curious.
I don't know. I do wonder if part of it is the fact that she was the first warcaster that I got, and so I played her a bit at the beginning, and then everything else was new and moving on. And I don't know, there's just something that doesn't quite gel for me.
She does.
Maybe it's toolboxy nature.
Yeah, she does.
I did used to enjoy Zerkova before. So why not Baronova? And I'm not entirely sure why.
She does have that old Zerkova thing of being a bit all over the place, because she's got long shadows, which says, oh, you want to build an army that's got lots of magic in. Except you don't, because the more magic Cador builds in, the more they're all the support solos. So you don't want to do too much of that. And it's got Field Marshal Arc Node. So, you want lots of jacks? Well, no, Baronova doesn't really play well with lots of jacks. She doesn't do anything for them other than the Arc Node. Oh, but she's got a great feat. See also Zerkova. Like she's got a lot of stuff that you've got to pick and choose what to use. But the big one she's got is Invocations, which is just, how do I make my army better?
Yes. Yeah. That it really is the best bit for her. Yeah.
Just the whole thing of playing someone again at the weekend and getting that additional die on every attack roll. They're like, oh, you get that on ranged, yeah. Oh, and melee, yeah, and arcane as well. Yes, you get it on everything, every attack roll. Oh, it's a big plus.
I've seen my shock trooper gunners do horrific war crimesy type things under her. Not signs of importance, invocations of wrath.
Yeah.
Give them Swift Hunter from the officer, and they're all over the place, killing everything.
Ooh, I tend to give them the coordination rather than Swift Hunter, because that one,
I think
the one model being able to just you are going to kill something.
Yeah, I think with invocations I go Swift Hunter because they can get into really interesting places and then reposition, and they can go almost anywhere.
I will say, if I do need to go for a flag and just kind of be annoying, they are the superstars of that, because of that whole thing of going on, putting out 6 sprays, and then spreading to the three most extreme parts of the flag, just to stand with a toe on there. People can often kill 1, maybe 2, but that third, just getting 2 turns of contest out of them, is often priceless, which is why they're in both of my lists for the Welsh. So, but yes,
I think they've got a lot of game now as well with the new steamroller, because they just laugh at trench warfare.
Okay, yes. In what role? I'm interested.
Well, the
ignoring the cover.
The scenario, the scenario defining rule is everyone's got lots of cover. And they just rock up and go, no.
Yeah. No, it is an interest. So. But yes, going back to Kurt's initial point, there is a lot of in-faction as well as inter-faction balance. Is it perfect? No. Is any game ever perfect?
No. It shouldn't be. Perfection is not to be aimed for. But I find it interesting. I'm still feeling like I'm learning with my own factions the benefits of running certain things together and how synergies fit together. And this is the game. It always has been a game of synergies and order activation paralysis. When you try and work out what you run first, what moves first and gives bonuses to other models, or what has to do what first. And that's every faction to an extent in every regard. Some more than others, but everybody has it.
Yeah.
I just find it really interesting. I find it interesting how models thrive with different casters more so than others. I really want to get Lilith on the table, and like Lilith with the Trichomerax feels like it should go well together because her feet would make them hit harder.
Yes.
But her primary kind of battle group ability is to be able to repo after shooting, and it's like great Swift Hunter, but you can't use Swift Hunter on a Gargantuan because they can't move out of primary movement. So it's like, oh, well, that's a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
Interesting, the way these things fit together.
I had the same moment when I looked at the Dozer. Is it the Dozer gun? The Dozer gun on Mastodon, because it's got beat back. I'm like, I can use that and advance forward, and no, that doesn't work like that at all.
No, can't do that.
I mean, what you can use it for is to put something in at 10 inches, hit it twice with the Dozer gun to push it back 2, and then use the momentum gun to slam it back D3, which I can think of plenty of things that would take offence at that. But yeah, it's one of those things to look out for. So
yeah, I think it's all signs that the game's in a good place. And it's thriving.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we have potentially witted on enough for one evening. I'm almost falling asleep into the remains of my tea at this point. So perhaps it is time to move on to what are we even calling this these days? Let's just call it the painting table and assume it's any other business.
I think so.
Yes.
We've come up with some weird names before, haven't we? But I think painting tables is the most straightforward one.
Yeah. So, Dom, what's on your painting table?
This time round, I've been painting one of my Orgoth first-bound champions, the Grotton, not the obscene one with the big shield, the one with the big sword that no one ever uses.
Oh, okay.
As I said last time, I'm trying to get fully painted before Umbro takes my attention, and Cadres is all done. Orgoth is proving a challenge for motivation. Burnout is real, but I'm getting there.
I mean, how to deal with the pain of burnout on painting is the eternal question.
Mm.
Some people can just push straight on through it and come out the other side and still have great results. Other people will go, you know what, I'll just paint this model slapdash and we'll move on. And that is also perfectly fine. As I was discussing with someone at the weekend, it doesn't matter if you've painted something, it looks a bit naff. It's got paint on it. It's better than a bare model. Move on.
Totally agree.
Life's too short to worry. And then there's the people who...
Yeah, I think...
Sorry.
No, you go.
Okay.
You go.
Then there are other people that's like genuinely need the break. They need, a month away from painting or painting that faction, or they need to move on to something else. And that can often be tricky to work out what to do instead. Yeah, but, sorry, go on, Dom.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's just the painting the Grotton they're just not fun to paint. They're just a bit bitty, and there's a hell of a lot of detail there that is awkward to reach to. I think it's one of the things that Matt has said that they want to improve in the future is to make things a joy to paint, and they give things a painting path. I think these dudes just fail at it. Once I've gone past this hump, it'll be a bit more smooth sailing, but you just have to get past them. And it's slightly more annoying that I've got the first two done already, so now the challenge is making the second two at least look a little bit like the first two.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is something that plagues us all, but I do really agree with what Matt Hart said in that things should be a joy to paint. Like mostly in Cador, I found that stuff is nice enough to paint, but that's because they're very simple kind of military dress uniforms and whatnot. I did have a problem with so this one comes back to 3D printing. I did have a problem with Sergeant Kroll in that I found that there was something that was almost physically impossible to get a brush to, and it's a single piece model, right?
Yes.
How am I meant to get my brush in here to do anything. Because, I mean, this is actually particular to all the Man of Wars, and it drives me crazy. And it wasn't on the old Man of Wars, it's something new. Basically, the current version of the Man of Wars, instead of having a solid outer shell of armour, you have the armour, but then at the back, you can see the armour plates don't cover everything, and you can see the uniform of the person inside, but they're all covered by, like, handles, and there's leather straps on there that you want to get in there and paint, but it's really damn difficult to do it.
I mean, they're incredibly reminiscent of the exoskeleton armor in Edge of Tomorrow. Just that,
that sort of
outer framework.
That and the power loader and that sort of that history of the mini mech, as it were. It's not quite a full mech, but it's the powered exoskeleton stuff. But yeah, there are just points on those models where you're like, I can't get a brush. Well, I can get a brush in there, but if I do, I'm going to be painting over other stuff. And even if I start inside out, it's still going to be a pain. So, mostly smooth sailing, but there's just the occasional point like, I really wish this wasn't a 3D printed model so that I could just kind of twist this arm off and re-glue it sometimes. I know that sounds bad, but, you know, there are points where we've all done something similar to that, I guess. There is also the argument of, if no one sees it, do you really have to paint it?
Exactly, I was about to say that. It's just smudge it in a dark colour in its shadow, and no one's going to know the difference.
There is a little bit of that. I'm not going to be beat about the bush on that one, but yeah, there's a little bit of that. So, okay, so you're I won't say having fun with your Groton, but you're at least getting through.
Getting there.
How much more of your Orgoth have you got to paint after that one? Is it kind of like mostly done? Or?
I have the 3 units of Reavers, the Standard Bearers. I've got what's his name, the mercenary Eilish.
Ah, okay.
I've got a 2nd unit of War Witches. That's it. That might be about it, I reckon.
Oh, so yeah, getting on with it.
I mean, I'm looking at it and going, this is batch painting hell. But I think the Reavers will go quite quickly.
If I'm honest, with Mark IV, because they've changed the unit sizes, I feel like the batch paints aren't as bad.
No, I'd agree with that.
Because rather than, I batch painted, like, one of my last ones in Mark III was the Stormblades. And that's like, okay, well, there's 10 of these. Oh, plus there's a weapon attachment and a unit attachment. It's like 13 models, and there's banners, and oh god, this is awful. And that was a slog. But now, when your maximum unit size is probably 5 plus a banner.
In Cador, rare outside of Cador, but in Cador. I suppose you can get 5 models with extra EUA, can't you, in most armies? Think about it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then if you're playing medium or large bases, 3. It's so much nicer a number to look at, and you feel like you're just chipping away. It's like, yep, if I paint all these 3, I've got a unit done. I tick that off the list. So
yeah.
But yes,
I do like that.
It may be batch painting hell, but at least it's not as bad a batch painting hell as it could be. So,
exactly.
Okay. That's very cool. Kurt, I think we know part of what's in your painting table, but is there anything else?
I'm one of these widows that enjoys painting. So this batch painting hell thing, it isn't somewhere where I live. I started my Chimera last year. I lost my way. I don't know if you've ever looked at Chimera in any real detail. There's a lot of swirly bits, and the one layer blends into the other layer, and what's mechanical and what's organic and what is so unusual. So I lost my way with them a little bit last year, and took a break entirely from War Machine, and I painted a ridiculous number of Dark Angels instead. Batch painting is, I quartered those as well. They were quartered cream and dark green, and I painted all of my Marines, and that's lots that I've been gathering for since 8th edition came out. And I enjoyed that, weirdly enough. But no, I'm painting Chimera. And I'm trying to finish it, so I'm kind of. I think the Shadow and Scum box, painting those darker and thrashing that out, definitely helped me refine the color scheme for the rest of my army. So yeah, on the table, I've been dancing between different things. So the Wyvern is pretty much there. I think my Wyvern, certainly first Wyvern, is pretty much done. I'm still trying to work on Nixian. Nixian's nearly done. Probably some fine detail stuff to mess about with and try and improve it and make it look like a warcaster, not a solo that's just wandering around. Any further models that I'm just trying to get some finishing touches. And I do have to try Chimera because I've been touching up and messing with that in between as well. So lots of different bits of Chimera trying to finish stuff because I wanted to get it on the table sort of get it reasonable, and now I want to finish, which is something I find difficult. Getting things back on the table and picking up where I left off, I do find difficult. But yeah, I'm enjoying the results now.
It's that whole thing of once something leaves the painting table, make sure it's finished, because it's probably not going back on anytime soon.
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot.
Yeah,
I think magnetic cases help, not going into foam like they used to. But
yes,
it's a bit better, but it's still an effort to get back on the table, back on the painting desk once it's left. But yeah. No, I'm feeling happy about it. It's starting to feel cohesive. Trying to bring the shadow shard cadre closer, because they're a dark purple as opposed to the brighter pink.
Yeah.
But trying to use the other colours, lightening the purple a bit, but also trying to bring the gold up and put more of the gold on to try and tie it in with the rest of the army. Again, no, it's been good. I like it. How about you, Mike? What's on your painting table?
Well, at the moment it's Cador. So, as previously mentioned, the Welsh Masters is fully painted this year. I fully respect just how much of a lazy painter I am, because if I do not have the impetus to get paint on things by tournaments saying no, you need to have a standard here, I will fail horribly. Yeah, I mean, last couple of weeks I've done Baronova. Because she was just in an undercoated stage for way too long. And that caused a moment, because as I was painting, it's like, okay, I want the uniform and the plates to be green. That's fine. She's got two sort of arcane scripted, I don't know what to call them. They hang down her back, almost like mini banners, or it's like it's like a quarter tabard. It's very strange. And I wanted to do those in the blue and the yellow, because that's generally what I've done with the army, with the blue on the left side of people as you look as from their point of view, and yellow on the right. And I started going through all the things I want to paint the stuff, and I was like, what do I paint the cloaks? I'm trying to avoid red, and it's like, well, it can't be green because the body's green. It can't be yellow. It can't be blue. I don't want it to be white, because that would stand out. I have this whole thing where, like, I don't like to do large areas of white unless something's an Arctic thing, because it would stand out too much on a battlefield. I at least want kind of like the impression of something military rather than, just whatever. Like,
Go on, Kurt. I know what you want to say.
I'm trying to bite my tongue. I am. Dom knows all about painting large swathes of white, and lots of very mean people, not that I would be one of those, saying it doesn't look finished. There you go. So I was open and honest there, Dom, not just scathing and critical.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just mention his new albino trolls.
I've still got them.
Yeah, they were last news like 12 years ago.
But nobody accused me of not having this finished, though.
that is true.
I got very good feedback on blending and highlighting, and some frightening levels of blending on painting white flesh. Don't tend to do that in a hurry again.
But yes, if eventually did settle on a colour for the cloak. How can I put this? By using the world's greatest method of cheating at anything. Putting my colour scheme into ChatGPT and saying...
Oh, I was going to say that as well.
Give me some options.
Okay.
And honestly, again, this is even better. I told it the names of the paints I was using. Not the colours, the names of the paints. And because the first ones I'd mentioned were all GW paints, it came back with GW suggestions. I said, yeah, but can you include some P3 ones as well? It's like, don't worry, fam, I got you. So, and it comes back with a whole new lot of suggestions. And I just picked Baraknar Burgundy with a Screamer Pink glaze for the lighter points.
I'm still enjoying that you said, don't worry, fam, like some kind of millennial. Not millennial, you are a millennial, but I
am a Zennial, thank you.
Yeah.
But yes.
You are a Zennial, yeah. No, you're not a Zennial. Well, you're on the cusp, you reckon?
Yeah. I'm depending on your definition, which may vary. So the Zennials are the older part of the Millennials. The people who particularly...
Oh, I see. I thought Zennials were the latter.
Yeah.
Younger, because they're nearly Gen Z. Gen Y is Millennials, isn't it?
It's part Gen X, part Millennial. So... Because we have the more analog childhood.
Oh, Zennials are the next, you mean, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's totally on a side point. What I am enjoying with that one is now having found out how glazes work. Thank you, Duncan Rhodes, for your wonderful videos on how to do it. I'm finding more places to use them, and that was nice. And I know that at least one person said, "That's a nice looking cloak." I'm like, yeah, it is. And it took all of about 20 minutes of me going, and slightly more purple, and slightly more purple, and a little dot of more purple here. So that was nice. Then picked up Sergeant Kroll. I'm trying to remember what his rank is. Kroll, anyway. Who is the Man of War character solo. And he was a nice short paint, because with Man of Wars you can kind of be a bit more messy because it doesn't really matter. Because those pistons do just blend in with the rest of the model, so where they end is a matter of interpretation. Have you painted any of the new Man of War stuff?
Yeah. My Cadre is all fully complete.
Do you not find that those pistons they don't really have definitions at the end? They just stop on the joints.
I'm trying to remember what I did for my pistons.
I know there's a couple I would have missed had I not been really carefully looking as well. So
I think Dom's coming now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get them out tomorrow and have a look. I'll send you a photo.
But the other one was the fact that for Kroll, because he hasn't got a helmet, and I'd done all my suppressors, I'd done one unit with a blue helmet, one unit with a yellow helmet. I'd got no way to incorporate the blue and the yellow, so I just decided that, hey, as a character solo, he's going to have the fancy standout armour. So he got, instead of some of the green plates on the front, he got the yellow and the blue, which would make him look a bit ridiculous, but he's also a man with giant grenade launchers strapped to him in armour that's thick enough for a tank, so I'm okay with that.
I mean, it's better than what my first thought was, which would be to go Braveheart with the face paint, blue and yellow.
Oh, I'm not brave enough for that one. It was bad enough that I tried to get some detailing on the scars that are above his eye line. I found that a bit rough. I couldn't quite get them as much. I was trying to make them a little bit more pink than anything else, but getting a fine enough tip on the brush to actually just affect those lines was really rough. So I gave up on that. It was a bit of a bad effort. But yeah, no, anyone who could do face paint, more power to you. I will stick with my simple Cardic flesh with a Midland flesh highlight as just kind of like, here's a simple way to do a face. Are you going to paint the eyes? No, I'm just not. You can't pay me enough. But yes, next on the table will be the Man of War. I keep wanting to say Demo Corps, but it's Wrecking Crew.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of the names for Cador that still stick in the mind. It's like every time you put Razor on the table, people call it Torch.
I think that's going to happen with the new trolls. I could see that happening with the new trolls, because they are the pirate trolls, the Brian Bloods, are very different to everything seen before.
Yeah.
I think what's coming is going to have more confusing, blurry lines with Creel Company.
Yes, very definitely. Yes, Dom, sorry, you were saying about the Torch Razor mix-up?
Oh, yeah, there is a reason for this. They are incredibly similar.
Yes, they are both. But well, I mean, one was part of Assault Commandos, Razor's part of SKS6, and they are similar sort of combined armsy. I think Torch had a chainsaw, I believe.
Yeah, they've both got chainsaws. They've both got grenade launchers,
shoulder grenades.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shared history there. But yeah, I just find it funny that every time I move Razor around, even I have to stop and not call it Torch sometimes. So, and Torch, despite being for many years like a jack that people did not get on with in Cador, was always one of my most played ones, because towing him round with Karchev was hilarious. Oh, he's only got a 6-inch flame template. Never mind. What if he was up in your face now? Plus the ability to have the boosted attack rolls with the chainsaw. Well, the circular saw was a nice one back in the days when things battered. So, yep. So, paint him at the moment. Man of War, more Man of War, possibly some Man of War after that.
Yay.
You say it like you don't like having Man of War just shoved at you at 4 inches a turn.
Cador, I mean, they're alright. It's never. I do find that I keep saying maybe we should have a proper topic about it maybe next time. Just the faction interest is so interesting, and not just in this game, in so many games. But I find this one very. I mean, 40k is quite polarizing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I do find that really interesting. How I look at Cadre and go, yeah, they're all right. I don't hate them, but I don't. I hate critics. Critics could do one, but I like. But man, Cadre, I'm a bit like, yeah, can't imagine it making me part with any money. It's really interesting.
I mean, Cadre Old Umbre. As soon as I saw the look for that was just pure like, take the cash. Just take it.
I like the idea of it, and the concept art I quite like. The models and the final versions of what's coming out. No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I like Circle.
Not even the Primeval.
No, none of it. So the concept art is quite cool. So where did I see on the Lock and Load? Is the concept art?
Yeah.
I saw some concept art earlier on one of the pages, and I was like, quite like the look of that. It's the very bottom of the 3D print of what's coming next, isn't it? Of the 3D print subscription. I can't remember. So yeah, it's on the War Machine Wednesday update, and that's quite the artwork's quite interesting. I like but none of the models. No, I'm all good. I'm good. You guys enjoy.
Oh,
I definitely will.
Yeah, I'm already looking at them and sort of going.
But then there's Trolls in the autumn, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I have Russ. Like whenever I talk to him, going, "This looks amazing." I can't tell what it is. It's amazing. I'm like, okay, good. So it's I'm not like I enjoy Brian Blood, but I'm enjoying Chimera a lot and I'm enjoying Dusk a lot. So whether or not that will distract me enough not to buy Trolls immediately, but Trolls have always been my first faction.
Yeah,
I'm drawn to those, but I'm kind of guessing that neither of you are that drawn to new Trolls in the autumn. In contrast,
no. I don't have anything against Trolls, but at the same point, other than Brian Blood, there's not enough there to make me go, ooh, that looks. I'd like to try that. I think. Partially for me...
Yeah, that's probably very fair.
I think partially for me, it's the fact that the faction is you either have little trolls, slightly bigger trolls, or really, really big trolls. Or really, really, really big trolls.
Yeah.
It's just kind of...
Yeah.
It's trolls all the way down. And I like having my faction, which is like, and here are the warjacks, and here's our tank, and here's our man of war, and here are our poorly armoured conscripts. I don't know. As you said, there is more to be said on that topic, and I think we could have a good 10 minutes on it.
Yeah, I think we'll circle back to that one, but I find it really interesting, and I find Old Umbre as a not a passionate Circle player, but I like Circle. And I look at the concept art and I go, yeah, I can see a lot of Circle in that. I can see Lord of the Feast influences and all kinds of stuff. And yet I look at the models and I go, no, I'm all good.
Lord of the Feast influences. For instance, one of the casters having a crow that allows him to shift to other models that are hit by him. So
there's that. But then in the artwork I'm looking at, the model next to him, which is some kind of weird skeletal, it's like a Skin and Moans, but more circly. Skin and Moans, Circle made of Skin and Moans, has got the skull of a deer with the antlers still on it for a head.
Primeval.
That's quite Lord of the Feast. That's Primeval, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
The Primeval,
I'm not invested.
The Primeval with its body snatcher, like I get more stuff as I accumulate corpse tokens thing is that's certainly a choice. And like it's still armor 18, still can take a shield, still 30 boxes. It's still Cadre enough, but yeah, no, I want to try these on a table. I think it's going to be more complicated because you've got stuff like the Witchmark totems and was it Veroni?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, yes, you can distribute corpse tokens. Like, okay, and we've yet to see the rest of the units. We've only got the Chosen of the Witch, who are mental. I'm just going to say that right now because it's one of those.
They're already making my head hurt in working out how I'm going to get a colour scheme to fit.
At least they don't have granted stuff for the rules to make your head hurt even more. Like, yes, they all have different things on their weapons, blind, flame burst, and crit decap, and one of them's a different range to the others, but that's a side point. At least they don't have granted.
I should apologise I feel I should apologise to the listener for starting this ramble down this path. We should come back to it another time. But
yes, no, we probably should.
I find it fascinating. So we could definitely talk about it again.
Yeah, I should probably let people, I don't know, go to bed at some point. So, we should probably end that there. So, you've been listening to Elite Cadre, the War Machine podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously. I've been Mike.
I've been Kurt.
And I've been Don.
Say goodbye, Nick.
Ominous silence. You've been listening to Elite Cadre, a War Machine podcast. Email us at elitecadrepodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at elite_cadre. Music provided by Martin DeBont and Symphony of Spectres. For more details on War Machine and its upcoming releases, please visit steamforge.com.